week 4 of the fantasy football season. And here's a few kickers I would start this week. The first guy is Brandon McManus of the Denver Broncos. So Brandon McManus, so far this season, he's been one of the best kickers in fantasy football. And this guy, we know he's got a big leg. We know he kicks that ball up through the uprights a lot and gets good fantasy points. And so far this season, he's got 2 out of the 3 games with double-digit fantasy points, including week 3 versus the Jets with 16 fantasy points, 43-yarder, 44-yarder, 32, and a 25-yarder with 2 extra points. So in week 4, I think it's going to be tougher, obviously, for the Denver Broncos versus Baltimore defense after the first 3 weeks of the season. They found the red zone a lot. So right here in this game, I think McManus will still hit 2 or 3 field goals and have a pretty decent game versus Baltimore team. And he's a kicker that should be owned in way more fantasy leagues and a kicker that definitely should be started this week. The next kicker is Evan McPherson of the Cincinnati Bengals. So McPherson, he's available in 95% of fantasy leagues. But right here, he's been pretty impressive so far, is the rookie kicker. The first few weeks of the season here. Week 1 versus Minnesota, 11 fantasy points. Week 2 at Chicago, 7. And week 3 at Pittsburgh, 7. So week 4 here versus the Jacksonville Jaguars. I said I liked a lot of Cincinnati Bengals in this game. And McPherson, in this one, I think he's going to get 3 or 4 opportunities and reach double-digit fantasy points. So right here, with him available in a crazy amount of fantasy leagues, if you want to put him as a 1-week fill-in at kicker, I think it's a good move this week. The next kicker is Daniel Carlson of the Las Vegas Raiders. So Daniel Carlson, he's been the best kicker in fantasy football so far this season here, kicking some long ones. And he's already at 11, 17, and 11-point fantasy days. In week 4, he had the Los Angeles Chargers, another indoor game here for Daniel Carlson. And this guy's got great accuracy, a big boot, and he's hit clutch kicks. I know in week 11 he missed an extra point, but he bounced back with the game-winning field goal in overtime, is Carlson. And week 4 at the Chargers, I think once again he gets 3 or 4 opportunities to put it through the uprights and reaches double digits for the 4th time in a row this season. The next kicker is Robbie Gold of the San Francisco 49ers. So last week, Robbie Gold, just 4 extra points it was for him in that ball game. But week 4 versus the Seattle Seahawks, this is going to be another shootout like it was in week 3 between the Packers and this 49er team. So right here, Robbie Gold, he's been a good kicker for many seasons now. One of the most accurate, obviously, in all of the NFL of all time. But right here, in week 4 versus Seattle, I think he gets a couple opportunities. And he's going to have to kick them in there because this is a big divisional game for both teams here. If San Francisco loses, they're 2-2. And if the Seahawks win, they're 2-2. So right here, Robbie Gold, he's at home once again in San Francisco, his comfort zone. And I think he has another good fantasy day. And the 5th and final kicker, I would start this week's Tyler Bass of the Buffalo Bills. So Bass last season, a great year kicking the football. Where he left off last season, bringing it into this year, 14 fantasy points in week 3 versus the Washington football team. And now in week 4, great matchup versus the Houston Texans. The only down thing here with Bass is he might just have a lot of extra point opportunities because this Texan defense really don't stop anyone. And Josh Allen, he's on an MVP type of tear so far this season. So right here, Bass, he could go anywhere from 6 to 12 fantasy points, I think, in this one. But he's a kicker you start each and every week, so that's a few kickers I would start here, week 4 of the fantasy football season.